recall beating your dad, assaulting him?
Not clearly, not to the point where I felt like I had control of what I was doing. To be honest with you, ma'am, I really.
It's just about recollection, not about control. Whether you recall your mother striking you with a chair and you picking up the broken part of the chair and beating your father with it. Do you remember that?
I don't have the recollection of all clearly of that.
So what do you think you put your mother through watching you kill your father?
That voice you heard is from Miss Nancy Turner, the board member of Connecticut that is quickly becoming my favorite. We'll go over her bio at the end. We're about to watch the parole hearing for a man who is facing a 20-year sentence. He served 16 and a half of it for killing his father and nearly killing his mother. He was a postal worker. He went postal. We'll unpack it at the end with all the details. With that, let's jump in.
Morning, Mr. Cephaloni.
Good morning.
We're going to go ahead and get started with your case.
Okay,
Good morning. My name is Officer Shamroy. Today is Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning by stating their names on the record. Certify that I have to read all statutory required documents and available pertinent information in preparation for this hearing.
Nancy Turner.
Joy Chance.
Middlemember Dorgan.
Sir, please state your name and phone number for the record.
Frank Cephaloni, MA 354030.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Frank Cephaloni, MA number 354030.
Mr. Cephaloni, did you write a statement for today's hearing?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Have it out and get it ready. Go ahead.
It's ready. Whenever you're ready. Thank you for seeing me today.
He is serving a sentence of 20 years for manslaughter first. As of today, record reflect the parole date of October 4th, 2024. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It's been reviewed, shows the offender has completed the following programs: anger management, tier 2, voice, and currently has a janitor job. Utilizing the stable level friendliness evaluation system, the offender's overall score seems falls within a moderate range of risk for recidivism. Sir, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
All right. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I take full responsibility for my actions. I feel awful and live with guilt from it every day. I am very sorry to my family, children, members of the community, and everyone that I've harmed. I'm ashamed for what got me here, with only myself to blame. Of my 16 and a half years of incarceration, I've turned to the chaplain-run services to reconcile and ask forgiveness. It helped me find ways to forgive myself by reflecting and praying for goodwill when I felt all alone. Attended outside-run AA and NA meetings, also facilitated and participated in second chance run AA and NA meetings within a dual diagnosis group to understand how important it is to stay clean. That is a reason I have a recovery coach, Juan Donald from CCAR, which he informed me that Sandra Violet introduced CCAR to the prison system, that I am thankful for, made it possible for me to sign up for a CCAR course that they have here to study to be a recovery coach. As Mr. Shamroy brought up already,
Officer Shamroy.
IPO, yes, officer, thank you for correcting me. Completed self-help groups such as anger management, start now units 1 through 4 twice. I've completed tier 2 voices and made sure, as Mr. Officer Shamroy brought up, my OAP was met, not counting other groups that I have taken for certificates and many without certificates. Education-wise, I passed my GED course with a high school diploma. I completed a business education course, completed first semester manufacturing math, one of the college courses that I am enrolled in, part of the second chance Pell program. I'm taking second semester manufacturing math, added intro to human services and blueprint reading with 2 weeks left. Go to an extra help class for manufacturing math, and I just picked up another course today for the summer, business communications. for jobs, made myself available to work in every unit I've been housed in. Currently have a job as a janitor in my housing unit. Worked 2 years sewing in the clothing factory in Osborne and 3 years in the office of clothing in Osborne, operating embroidery machinery, along with many other jobs I've held throughout my incarceration. I've helped others incarcerated around me by sharing my experience, showing the great deal of pain I've caused, the remorse I feel from it, and how to heal from it. Upon my release, I plan on doing the same, helping out where needed through sources like AA, NA, CCAR, all causes vital to the community. I want to continue my college courses. I'd like to attend the CCAR Academy and further my education to be a productive member of the community. I have a strong support system with a sponsor, Mr. Mark Nolan, with his wife Deb, that are helping me with work and housing. My mom, Maria Cefaloni, my ex-wife Lisa, son Angelo, daughter Daniela, my granddaughter Layla, my aunt Laura Ferrante, cousin Ron Ferrante, good friend Brian Solo, with wife Sarah, and old friend Joe Gesaroli, whom all wrote letters on my behalf that I'm very grateful for. I want to thank you again for this chance, and I want to show appreciation to IPO Shamroy for helping me put this together. Thank you again.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cepoloni. So we've read the documents available to us. We've prepared questions that we will take turns asking you. Then we will hear from the Office of Victim Services, after which we will discuss your case, and you'll have a decision this morning. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Dargan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good morning.
So, we look at a lot of information preparing for the hearing, right? And to me, I mean, these are sad ones, right? Where it's a loved one with some family member, right? And again, we're not psychiatrists, we're not psychologists. We just review all the information that we receive, police reports, pre-sentence. So there's a lot that we read. So maybe you could help me digest some of it, right? Because it looks like at the time you had a good job with the Postal Service, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Maybe there was issues at that time with your wife or your marriage at that time, right? I mean, I don't know this specifically, but would that be somewhat of an accurate assessment?
I don't know if you got the right files over here. No, I wasn't married at the time.
Okay. So the reason why I ask, because the Postal Service has usually what's called like a EAP, or Employee Assistance Program, right? Where if you have some issues, whether it might be with substance abuse or alcohol abuse, or whatever the issue might be, you could go to them for assistance. So I guess my question is, prior to what happened with you and your dad, was there any indicators that you might have been able to reach out to get assistance?
Sir, I did reach out. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were getting at. I thought you might have, where you were. But I did reach out. I went for inpatient treatment. I had no idea of how severe my I want to call diminished state at that time. I didn't have, I went for inpatient drug treatment. I was seeing a psychotherapist. I went for aftercare. I went through the post office. They sent me on their own. They sent me because I think they were aware that there was something going on with me. They even had me going to a psychiatrist through the post office also.
Yeah, so not to interrupt you, but we always protect your rights underneath mental health too. So we're live streaming this.
Right.
So we protect your right of privacy too. Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, like I said, I wasn't, I went for all these kinds of treatment. I've had the 2 psychiatrists evaluate me when I came in here, 2 state psychiatrists. I don't know if you have that also, but like I said, I think I feel really bad about what happened. I wish, that it was a terrible thing that happened. And it's like, I think I went for all the help. I think I covered all that. I don't know, what else are you looking for as far as?
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand maybe what was going on at the time, because it looks like, there was something that stood out to me that seemed to be stated when this happened. Like, it seemed like you said, "Why do you do this to me?" to your dad. Do you remember that at all?
That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that at the time I wasn't in my right mind. I would have never done something like this. I wasn't, I wasn't in my right mind. I remember bits and pieces, but I was hallucinating very bad at the time. I wasn't on drugs at the time, but 2 months prior I was using heavy and drinking, and that's why I reached out for help and try to figure out what was going on at that time. But I was so far gone at that time that I don't know what happened, that I lost control of that I was going for help and everything else.
Okay, so programming that you've taken since you've been incarcerated, has that given you some insight of what might have been going on? And has that been of help?
I tell you this much, that like I stated in my statement,
Yes.
it's very important that I stay clean. I believe that I believe that might have had an effect on me or something. And even though I wasn't high at the time, I was on. I'm not ashamed of my of the psychiatric, because that's a real thing as far as what's going on. So I mean, I don't
Please
hold
don't
that.
disclose any diagnoses.
Oh, I am not. I'm not diagnosed doing that. I'm just telling you that at the time I was even at. Okay, I'm going to stop right there then, because. But going to the question, as far as the question, could you repeat that again? But at the time I was going for help. I went for all the help and possible. This isn't me at all. And my mother even, could vouch for that. And she's vouched for me on that part too. And I think everybody that knows me knows this isn't any indication of the person that I am. And this is really.
So where do you think that you might need help or additional help when you are released?
I'm gonna seek all the help. I already said that I'm going for AA, NA, C-CAR. I got a sponsor that's gonna help me set goals and help me with employment. Whatever things that I got to take care of. I plan on taking care of. I've been working hard as far as on my release. So I think I think I've gotten to the point where I'm going to seek any kind of help that I need. I've always done that, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Okay, and it looks like from letters I read, and you still have a number of family support. That be accurate?
Yes, that's right. That's what I believe. IPO Shamroy presented you with the
Yeah.
with the letters.
We have that. I just wanted to get your take on it.
Yes, and many more that I feel like I got a big support system out there to turn my life around and get back on the right track and spend some time with my mom but she's 80 years old now, and you know, little time with my kids and my granddaughter. That you know,
It looks like this really your only criminal record, except when you were younger, you might have had an issue with a DUI. Is that accurate?
that's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having a conversation with me. Thank you, ma'am.
Certainly, Ms. Chance.
So, Mr. Stefani,
Yes.
prior to the act, because that's what you refer to it as, you indicated that you had last used cocaine a couple of months before your arrest, and the therapist that you went to see made attempts to refer you for a psychological evaluation. I don't know what happened there, but when you got home the day of the act, you yelled at your dad and said, "Why did you do this to me?" And you said you was not in your right mind.
Hmm.
Then when the parole officer interviewed you, you said you didn't think your sentence was fair because you should have gotten treated for what you were suffering from at the time of the act.
Right. That's
So
correct.
my sentence to you is, whatever that was, were you able to address that issue during your incarceration?
I think I'm in touch with myself very well right now, and I see that you know that I might have some things that I need to work on that this will never happen again. I know for sure that this will never happen again, knowing the way that I am, and I brought that up to be open with Mr. Shamroy, the parole officer Shamroy, and to make sure that I follow suit on what I need to get done when I get out there. And you know, I feel like it's better to do it as soon as my parole comes up, because I got 20 years, a sentence with a couple years left. So I want to get, you know, the help that I need, or you know, right now, as far as getting back out there, get situated. I think I'm doing very well, like I stated already, to be productive out there and make a difference, to help some other people going through the same things, and you know, like family members that need me out there, and some very other important you know, pieces that could use me.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions. My questions that I'm here on.
You're welcome.
So you pled under the Alford Doctrine. When you were asked by Officer Shamroy to explain your crime, you said that you went after your father and he ended up dying.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear that correctly.
You pled under the Alford Doctrine.
Right.
When you were asked by Officer Shamroy about your crime, you said you went after your father and he ended up dying.
Okay, so what are you trying to get at?
If you'll give me a second, I have a question.
Sure.
In court, the judge said to you, "I still have not heard you say that you killed your father." And you haven't said that here today. Do you accept responsibility, though you said in your opening statement you take full responsibility, that through your actions, you caused the death of your father?
Yes, ma'am. I do take full responsibility of that.
So you, at sentencing, said you lost your temper. And you're telling us today that this will never happen again. So what have you learned about your anger issues that you feel you can control to the point of not injuring another person?
Again, substance abuse, I believe had a big part of it, even though I wasn't as I stated already, that I wasn't under the influence of any kind, except for prescribed medication. And as long as I believe that I stay off of chemicals that, that probably caused this terrible event,
I'm looking
that's
for
why I'm sure.
information on tools you've adopted to regulate your emotional responses to situations that anger you.
Okay. I've taken anger management, and I probably gonna have to concentrate on more of that. Maybe I'm not aware of the temperament problems that I've had, and that I'm more than willing to work on and doing any kind of amends to help that with that. I feel like I haven't got any bad. I haven't assaulted anyone in here in 16 and a half years. And even out there, it's very. That's not. I don't believe in that. I have a person in me like that to really harm other people. I don't believe in that, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, your last fighting ticket was actually in 2010, so that's 14 years ago. But you've taken it, your opening statement, you went through all the programs you've taken, but you didn't actually talk about how you've benefited from that. And now I'm asking you to be specific about anger management skills that you have, because you attribute killing your father to losing your temper and guaranteeing us that this won't happen again. I'm trying to understand what you've learned through anger management that's going to help you cope with your anger.
I've learned that there's many different ways to handle situations. I mean, there's ways to handle situations.
I'm asking you to be specific. What are those ways, sir? I think I've handled it well so far. I mean, I've handled it, a lot of situations where, I've gone through them and stuff like that, I mean, this anger management course was, done a while ago. So, I mean, as far as like specific things that you're, I don't know what you're looking for exactly, but I believe that okay. Let me unpack this a little bit for you. You obviously benefited from the program because your behavior has improved. But I'm sure you still face challenging situations there in confinement with a variety of different personalities and people with their agendas. So when you feel yourself getting angry, do you practice deep breathing? Do you walk away from situations? Have you learned to meditate? Do you journal? How do you channel your negative feelings so that you avoid DRs and don't assault other people?
I exercise physical exercise, positivity. I try, I get along with people. I talk to people like I want to be talked to. I interact, in that manner. I go to church, I pray. I mean, I do, all whatever it takes. I'm all for it, for doing it, and I think I've been doing that. I guess it's so. I've been doing so well that I really never really sat down and thought about this question, which is a good question that you're asking. I understand. It's just kind of as far as like the anger management course, like I said, it was a long time ago, and if I need to refresh on them, or even taking the C card course that I'm going for to become a recovery coach,
All right, so if you were granted, we would want you to take anger management again out in the community for sure.
Sure.
So if you're a little struggling here with your skill set, so why don't you tell me what you understand the triggers are that bring you to feeling your temper growing and your anger?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I think it's the drugs that hurt my cognitive skills. I believe that I really don't have anger issues when I'm clean and sober and in my right mind, as far as any, substance abuses again, or alcohol. I believe that's what had the thing. But otherwise, I believe I'm all right with that. But I got no problem making sure that my anger issues are under control. No doubt.
I'm looking for any insights into, situations and circumstances that trigger you to feeling angry. Can you identify any of those?
I think no, I can't. I mean, there's stuff that of course, going to make me angry, but I know that already. I know what to do when it comes down to that. There's nothing really specific that I could think of that angers me. I believe that I got that all under control. But as far as taking courses to make sure that I got no problem with that.
Great. Lastly, Mr. Cepoloni, do you recall beating your dad, assaulting him?
Not clearly, not to the point where I felt like I had control of what I was doing. To be honest with you, ma'am, I really.
It's just about recollection, not about control. Whether you recall your mother striking you with a chair and you picking up the broken part of the chair and beating your father with it. Do you remember that?
I don't have the recollection of clearly of that.
So what do you think you put your mother through watching you kill your father and being unable to stop you?
A whole lot. I put her through a whole lot by that.
All right, at this point, we're going to turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services. Ms. DeJesus.
Good morning, board members. On April 12th, I spoke with the victim's son, who stated the following to me, quote, "I have no position regarding release. However, the siblings and their spouses want no contact with the defendant," end quote.
You heard that, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It broke up at the end. I just heard no contact.
Could you repeat yourself, Ms. DeJesus?
Yes, of course. Quote, "I have no position regarding the release. However, the siblings and their spouses want no contact with the defendant," end quote.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Mr. Cepoloni, please give us a few minutes and don't interrupt. Go ahead, Mr. Darby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so, I struggle with this case. I struggle that it was a family, and unfortunately, there was a death that occurred through what happened. I listened to his opening statement. I listened to what he talked about programming and where he came from. I can't really call what happened that day. I listened to the brief statement from OVS. And in the end, for me, it's difficult for me to go at 85%. I have them going to end the sentence. And it just, because our line of questions that we asked, I didn't really get the full impact of totally understanding where he was coming from. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
think
concerning.
he definitely could have done a better job of representing his growth and change. Ms. Chance?
So while Mr. Cepoloni completed several positive programs, received several letters of support, and did not, his last DRs was, maybe 14 years ago. The concern that I have is, first, he said he didn't feel his sentence was fair because he should have gotten treated for what he was suffering from. I didn't hear, read or on or off the record what he was suffering for at the time. And I believe when I asked him, he says, well, he thinks that he's in touch with himself right now and doing very well. And I know, I read in the transcript, and as you asked him, Madam Chair, what he was taking responsibility for, or if he took responsibility. And he did indicate that it was an anger problem, which was something different. So for me, I'm not in favor of his 85% release because I don't think Mr. Cepoloni has addressed the reason for killing his father. And he may have worked on other things with himself, but
Well, I share the concerns of my colleagues. I would have expected with all the programming that Mr. Cepoloni could have presented greater detail about how he's benefited from the programs and the change. It's interesting to me that, at court, everything was in great detail from his attorney with a mental health focus. And, now the focus or the explanation is more about temper. So he expressed taking full responsibility. His language is just shy of that. And now we're hearing a drug explanation, but he wasn't actively using at the time. So it just isn't quite adding up for me. So your reasons would be what?
Well, my reason, of course, is the nature of circumstance of the current offense. He really hasn't had a criminal history before that, besides the DUI.
I think it's very telling that we didn't hear from the mother.
Right.
Do you have other reasons?
I had an impact because the son came on and so they didn't have it, but they did not want to be.
Right, connected, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a very short statement. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Don't know.
Maybe evidence of offender change.
The clip.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, just through
You
the
want to use
question.
those three?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the matter of Frank Cepoloni and mate number 354030, there is a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: the nature and circumstance of your offense, the injury and impact caused to the victim and the victim's family, and inadequate evidence of offender change. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
This concludes the hearing for Frank Cepoloni, mate number 354030. You're all set, Mr. Cepoloni.
All right, thank you.
We'll unpack this with going over the appeal, and we'll also look over Ms. Turner's bio because she's like the closest thing I think we have to Louisiana in terms of someone who seems to hold people accountability. You know, like for instance, when he referenced Miss Shirley in his letter, and she cuts him off and says, "Officer Shirley." That was a very like Miss Jackson moment right there. So he, you know, there's something that is so telling when you watch these hearings, and you know, there's like the scenarios where someone says, "Well, they went postal, they just lost it, and they killed their father in front of their mother," and then there are those who say, "Well, maybe he really did just lose it, and maybe what he told the court, and this and that, and whatever it is that you want to say." If you want to be like, to try to have empathy for the killer, but then you see his parole hearing 16 and a half years later, and there's nothing there. It's like he's a lizard humanoid. There's no emotions. There's nothing. And when you see that, you have to take a step back, in my opinion, and say, why is he getting out no matter what in 3.5 years? I mean, he had 16 and a half years to think about this, to even fake it. He couldn't even fake it. I mean, it was like he didn't even think about that he should fake it. It didn't even cross his mind that he should have empathy, that he should have guilt, that he should have remorse. It was just, and this is what's so fascinating to me about watching these things. I think this is a new thought of mine, what is it worth? But like, prosecutors, defense attorney, anyone in law, judges should watch parole hearings, because it may give a different perspective about the person that is being prosecuted and sentenced at the time. Not everybody has a right to be walking amongst us. People who don't show remorse, you don't have the ability to feel what is it that is what type of guarantees do we have that he is not going to just snap again? I mean, we're not talking about someone who pulled a gun out in an angry, you know, like road rage incident, which is bad enough, but this is someone who just went out on his father, has no reason, no depth, no insight. He didn't even make up a story that his father was verbally abusing him for 20 years and he built. There's nothing. He just lost it. Why does someone like that deserve a second chance? Pun on mischance. At least she didn't grant. Gosh. So, okay. Let's go over the court hearing. That's enough of my soapbox, right? Thank you, Richard, for the info. So this was decided December 22nd, 2011. This is his appeal. He wanted less time. So petitioner Frank was originally charged with homicide. Pursuant to an agreement between the parties, however, the state changed the charge to intentional manslaughter. So, you know, they said, okay, we won't go to court. We'll give you manslaughter. The petitioner pled guilty under the Alford doctrine. They do anything to not have to go to trial. Now, the Alford plea, you want to do it in this case, fine. It's family. It's complicated. They don't want to go to trial. But I get pissed off when they do the Alford plea in the child cases and in the sexual assault cases. Those piss me off, because you're taking that is just a slap in the face to the victim. Now, each party was free to argue to the trial court for whatever sentence it believed appropriate. Listen to what his mother said. After reviewing the pre-sentencing investigation, considering the relevant information, and hearing the arguments of counsel, the trial court imposed a sentence of 20 years to serve. The facts underlining the petitioner's crime are as follows. On October 3rd, 2007, at 8:05 p.m., the Danbury police responded to an assault complaint. When the police arrived at the victim's home, they found that he was suffering from a severe head trauma and that his wife was suffering from facial wounds. The police learned that the victim and his wife had been attacked by the petitioner, who is their adult son. At an earlier point, the petitioner had entered the home of his parents and, without any provocation, began viciously beating his father. Can you imagine? You know, they say the whole postal thing. And one of our mods is a postal worker, actually. Jam. I have a lot of respect for those who hold a job. It's got to be a tough job. But through all weather, through all conditions, you got to go. You got to deliver. Now, the petitioner's mother hit him over the head with a chair. So she's watching her son kill her husband. She takes a chair, hits him over the head in an attempt to get him to stop assaulting the father, but the petitioner was unrelenting in his attack. After savagely beating the victim, the petitioner fled the scene in his automobile, and he runs away. Unbelievable. The police later found him near his home. He was covered in his father's blood, and his clothes were in disarray. The victim ultimately died as a result of beating that his son inflicted on him. I mean, how is a 20-year sentence appropriate for someone who does this? How? Why? I get it, kicks the ball down the road, but isn't it interesting how quickly 20 years goes by? It goes by. The petitioner now asked the division to reduce his sentence to 10 years to serve, followed by 10 years of special parole. He argues that he has severe psychological impairment, and talk about the psychological impairment. Isn't it interesting how Connecticut, it's just going back to the cultures of each state, they are like locked down. They say, you can't say anything. Don't say anything. This is a public forum. You can't this. And he's like, meanwhile, trying to maybe shed some light on information, but you can't say anything. And then Louisiana, it's a complete opposite. Louisiana, they'll read every type of piece of private information. It's actually a nightmare from a YouTube perspective. And it's just two different cultures. You know, you have Yale and Harvard, and then Louisiana. I don't know. I guess you got football. I know guys, I'm joking. Louisiana has their schools too, but okay. So that up until the incident in question, he had no criminal record, and he claims that he had no memory of the crime. In addition, the petitioner asserts that he is the support of his family, that he is willing to get treatment, and will refrain from any further assault behavior. At the sentence review hearing, the petitioner's mother spoke on his behalf. She asked the division to give him any appropriate consideration. So this is what the mother said, and she spoke on his behalf, which is incredible. The mother will do what a mother will do. And she asked the division to give him any appropriate consideration. That speaks volumes, right? The petitioner's 3 adult siblings did not speak on the record at his sentence review hearing, but did submit a written statement. In the statement, dated October 24, 2011, petitioner's siblings said, "We have no trust that the events of the devastating night will not be repeated." Need one say more? Need one say more? So the state strongly opposes any reduction in the sentence. It argues that the petitioner abused narcotics and alcohol for years, and that his psychological problems do not explain or mitigate the brutality of his behavior. According to the state and the trial court, the petitioner received all the consideration he was entitled to when the state changed the charge from murder to manslaughter, and thereby allow the petitioner to avoid a sentence no less than 25 years or a maximum of 60 years in prison if convicted after trial. And I wonder, again, they don't want to do trial. It's a headache. It's this. I'm sure the family didn't want to do it either. So you might say, okay, they'll do a deal, 20 years. It's 5 years less than the minimum. But I wonder, had he gotten a 25 to 60, would he be getting out? And that's kind of the argument. He's not showing. You never know with this Connecticut parole board, but I would argue that maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he just, without being able to show any insight and empathy, maybe he would be where he belongs. The division only has authority to modify a criminal sentence is appropriate or disproportionate within the meaning of practice or about the sentence imposed with the court trial, blah, 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 and it was affirmed. Okay. So now we'll go talk about Nancy Turner. So you'll read about her background. She's particularly tough on roaches. So Miss Turner was appointed to the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles as a full-time board member in 2017. Prior to joining the board, she coordinated a statewide effort to address the needs of substance-exposed infants and their families at Advanced Behavioral Inc., and served as director of offender risk reduction for the Connecticut Coalition Against DV, where she also chaired the Connecticut Domestic Violent Fatality Review Committee, right? This is someone who I call qualified. This is someone who I want as a parole board member. And you can tell, by the way, when she does, and I'll point it out more, Richard points it out for me now in the also in the spreadsheets. He's listing the board members, which is a huge help. It takes me, I think, longer than most people to even associate names. But when you can't see faces in these parole hearings, it's just voices. And some of the voices sound the same, like Dargan and Pohl sound identical, but Dargan is not Pohl. Anyways, it's nice to have her. Previously, Ms. Turner worked in Washington, D.C. for the International Association of Chief of Police as senior program manager. During her 14 years with IACP, she managed a series of federal grants to set standard and policy guide police response to and investigating various crimes, including homicide, stalking, human trafficking, sexual assault, and gun violence. In addition, Ms. Turner developed and delivered leadership training programs for major city, state, rural, and campus law enforcement executives. Ms. Turner taught on the faculty of George Washington University from 1990 to 2005, so she was a professor, and previously lobbied Congress for National Coalition Against DV. She earned a BA from the University of Connecticut, master's degree of George Washington University. So that is what I call qualified. That is what I call what a board member should be, and I think we see the difference. And man, she's really tough on the roaches. So we'll show you more of her. It's nice to see that Connecticut does have some competent, quality, qualified board members. So thank you, Richard, for the info. With that, I'll let you go.